Okay, we are on the air.
Call to order the meeting of the Long Hill Township Planning Board for May 12th, 2026. Time is 7:33, and I will ask Madam Secretary to please read our announcements.
Yes,
Thank
number one, call to order and statement of compliance. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by posting a copy of the public meeting dates on the municipal bulletin board and website, by sending a copy to the Echo Sentinel newspaper, and by filing with a copy with the municipal clerk. Number two, standard board procedures. At any meeting conducted by the board is a quasi judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to issues that are relevant, I can't speak tonight, sorry, relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial meeting must be maintained at all times. Number three, electronic devices. All in attendance are asked to mute cell phones or any electronic devices as to not interfere with the proceedings. Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and now we have to have our board attorney administer the oath of office to Class 1 member Scott Lavender and Class 2 member James Lavender.
If you could please raise your right hands and repeat after me. I, please
I.
state your name,
Scott Lavender,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the state of New Jersey,
and the state of New Jersey,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same
and allegiance to the same,
and to the governments established
and to the governments established
in the United States and in this state,
in the United States and in this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially, and justly
impartially, and justly
perform all the duties of,
perform all the duties of
and then state your position, Planning Board,
Planning Board Class 1 member,
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
and that I will not use my office
and that I will not use my office
to grant preferential treatment,
to grant preferential treatment,
nor to seek personal gain,
nor to seek personal gain,
favor, or advantage
favor, or advantage
not available to the general public, so help me God.
not available to the general public, so help me God.
Congratulations.
Hey, congratulations, nice job.
Pass that down.
Congratulations. Pass that over.
I'm back.
All right, well, that's going on, I will take the roll.
You're
Long time no
back.
see,
Welcome
Scott.
back and welcome.
You got to come at the end. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Welcome to another Lavender, the smarter, better-looking Lavender. No offense, take no offense, Scott.
Yeah.
All right, I'll take the roll now. Mayor, cross Mayor Paserchi out and put Scott Lavender. Scott?
Present.
Oh, I gotta redo this. James Lavender?
Present.
Okay. Victor is currently absent. Mr. Hands is excused this evening. Mr. Laverario?
Present.
Ms. Ogins?
Here.
Mr. Alpalka?
Here.
Vice Chairman Jones is excused this evening. Chairman Richardson?
Here.
Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Well, again, welcome, everyone. We have a very focused agenda this evening around two ordinances that you have before you. Hopefully, everybody did get a chance to take a quick peruse of these drafts for discussion this evening. I'm going to turn it over to our board attorney to just provide a little bit of an introduction, and then we'll also have a little opening statement when we get to pertinent ordinances from our planner, Liz. So, take it
Okay.
away.
So the ORC, the Ordinance Review Committee, has been tasked with getting started with reviewing the ordinances and getting started with, the ORC decided to get started with cleanup. So we started with the definitional sections. So what we've done with that first ordinance that you're looking at, the definitions, is we've basically removed any definitions that we found were not used throughout the land use code, throughout the code. Also, things that were redundant, things that were basically not used anymore. There were a number of definitions relative to floodways and, flood issues, environmental issues having to do with flooding, which are no longer accurate. They don't reflect accurate law. There were other definitions that needed to be revised just to comply with what the law is at this time, and also just revised to comply with what the ordinance actually says. Because, when the ordinance is amended over time, sometimes the definitions are kind of ignored. And some things are missed, and then inconsistencies arise, and then we have an issue, especially when applicants come before the zoning board and they're trying to determine what they're allowed to do and what they're not, and they're finding some inconsistencies between what the ordinance actually says and what the definitions say. So we decided on the ORC that it would probably be best to start at the beginning, and that's where we started. So there will be more additions, deletions to these definitions. This is just a start to clean up what we know that we have to clean up at this moment. As we move forward and address other parts of the ordinance, the definitions are necessarily going to have to be further amended, but we'll deal with that in future ordinances. For example, our House of Worship ordinance tonight is taking care of a couple of definitions, in that, separate legislation, because it deals with, what we're dealing with in that particular ordinance. So I didn't want to do that in the cleanup ordinance with the definitions, because if that ordinance is not adopted simultaneously, there's going to be a period of time when we're not going to have a definition for certain terms, and we didn't want to leave it that way. So we cleaned up what we could, we cleaned up what we thought was a standalone issue, and we'll be amending these ordinances, these terms, as we move forward with other portions of the code. So that's
Great.
basically that first ordinance with the definitions. That's all we've done. We haven't made any policy determinations, we haven't decided, anything really. It has really nothing to do with the master plan and the changes in the master plan. It just has to do with, it's gotta be brought up to date. So that's with the definitional terms. I've also removed some portions of the code because the original code references the 1996 master plan. Well, that's already been replaced. So I removed that and basically put in what the municipal land use law says that you're supposed to look at. The terms from the municipal land use law. And we also decided that any terms, any land use terms that are not defined in particular in this ordinance, you should look to a planning document that was written by Mr. Moskowitz, who is no longer with us, but this is a book of planning terms, effectively, that has been published, that many towns look to define many planning terms and land use terms. So what we did was we are going to use that latest version, whatever the latest version of that book is. So in the future, if there are later versions, we're going to be able to rely on them for definitions, instead of, trying to come up with a definition for every single simple planning or land use term that's already defined out there somewhere. And it's easy enough for an attorney who's representing an applicant, or a planner or an engineer, to pick up that book and just look at those definitions if they have a question about it, and they probably won't, because many of these terms, the more important ones, are already defined by the MLUL, so it's not like, we're not gonna use that often, pretty sparingly. So that's the cleanup ordinance, the definitional one, in a nutshell. And then the other ordinance is the House of Worship ordinance, where we are looking now, I'll have Liz speak to that in a moment, but what it's basically doing is, at the moment, houses of worship are basically not permitted in any zone in the entire township, but they exist. So what this ordinance basically does is it creates a conditional use. So they are permitted conditionally in certain, in certain zones. They're not permitted in others, but they are permitted subject to compliance with certain conditions that we're gonna go over in a moment. So they're going from an unpermitted use to a permitted use with conditions. So there are a couple of houses of worship in town that are pre-existing non-conforming uses. At the moment, they're just not permitted uses. And any time that those houses of worship have wanted to expand in any way, they have found themselves before the Zoning Board of Adjustment looking for a D2 use variance for an expansion of a non-conforming use. So now, if they comply with all the conditions, they're going to be able to avoid that. So it will become a little bit easier for some, and for others, they're grandfathered. They've been grandfathered forever because they perceive zoning as it is. So now, as conditional uses, it'll be a little bit easier for them, but not completely, because they're still gonna have to comply with those conditions or get variances from the zoning board if they can't meet those conditions. So now at least there are parameters around the use, rather than simply saying, you're not permitted, but we know you're here and we know you're grandfathered. It becomes a little bit of a difficult situation. So what we're doing now is simply putting some rules around them, basically.
So Liz, do you want to give your,
I
okay,
can't,
so wait.
do you want to do both?
I think, well, what makes sense to me is maybe tackle the cleanup ordinance
Okay, if
first.
anyone has questions on any
In
of
regards
that.
to questions, and we'll go through it. I just wanted to first of all thank both Liz and Yolanta in helping to lead the process with the ORC committee, and just remind the board, as we had assembled this ORC team, that we're really entrusting the ORC team to have done the heavy lift here. So we're hopeful that really some of the questions and the comments are for clarity, and we're not having to redo work that has already been laboriously handled by that group. So I asked for that as we kind of go through this. They've done a great job with Tom leading the team here to get us to this point. As you can imagine, these are really tricky. It's like little domino effects. You take one domino out, it's like Jenga blocks. You take the
Yeah.
Jenga block out, the whole thing could fall. So we're carefully trying to keep the structure of this thing together, right? And move forward with getting some of these ordinances passed. So with that said,
I'm glad you brought that up, because the cleanup ordinance was much larger than just definitions. It was probably getting to be about 70 pages at one point, because we were trying to take on a little bit more, but it would have taken the ORC so long to go through all
Right.
of that 70 pages, because there were, there were policy decisions to be made, and we decided, you know what, let's just clean up what we can without having to make any decisions based on the master plan, of course. And let's just clean it up, move forward, and then we can start getting into kind of like the meat, of the
Exactly.
master plan.
Yeah, so
good.
question, just
So
so,
please, let's open it up to the cleanup ordinance.
so just to understand it, so I understand this to be the first pass of cleaning this up, and then it's going to evolve over time as we fix some of the other stuff?
Yes. So this is the first pass, just getting rid of the stuff that shouldn't be there, fixing some of the stuff, some inconsistencies, and then later, we're gonna
Tweaks.
revert back, we're gonna harken back to the definitions. Every time we fix something else in the ordinance,
We
we're
gotta
gonna
come
have to
back.
remove things, we're gonna have to add
Right.
things. So,
Right.
I didn't wanna remove anything that is still referenced, even if in the future because that's how the whole cleanup process started, that whole 70-page monster, is that, oh, well, we're gonna remove these things pursuant to what the master plan says. And we started with the definitional sections, but then we thought, okay, that's just, it's too big. It's too big of a project for one time. It's too big for the planning board to review, it's too big for the township committee, so we just decided to break it up into chunks.
And then what's our goal with this today? Is it to have a meeting of the minds and say, this is okay, but it kind of sits dormant while we go through other stuff, or do we adopt this?
No, this is going to be sent to the township committee for their review, and then if they choose, they can put this on for first reading and then adopt it. you know,
Okay.
because it cleans up a lot of the stuff that.
Okay,
that
so it's
shouldn't have been
functional,
cleaned up.
it's functional.
It is, it's definitely
Absolutely.
functional.
Doesn't have any stubs in it.
It
Right.
doesn't, and it seems kind of counterintuitive to go back and forth, but we thought about this.
Right.
We did, and we thought that this way would probably be the more sensible way, and we're never leaving the township in a position where we haven't fixed this yet, but we already removed all the terms.
Yep.
You know, we don't wanna do
Right.
that,
Yeah, I think that's a good way to express it.
yeah.
Well, and as a reminder, when, under the assumption that the board will be happy with these two ordinances tonight, they go to, I will send them to the township committee tomorrow. They will be on their agenda most likely for the 27th of the month, which means, again, they come back to us on the following planning board meeting in June, because we still have to deem them not inconsistent with the master plan.
Right.
Even though we wrote them, just saying.
Yeah.
Can I comment?
Yes, please.
Um,
Yep, we're open up.
For your consideration, and looking at the NJSA 40:55D, and now there's a D-2 in 2025. And I personally would like to see, and I'd like the opinion of the group, just 3 additional purposes that are in that document, which address the planned unit developments and incorporate best features of design, just the mention of design. The other one, and that in this document is letter K. The other is to promote utilization of renewable energy resources.
We can certainly add that.
And that's N in this document. Then O, because we are stellar with our recycling used by neighboring towns. O is to promote the maximum practicability, recovery and recycling of recyclable materials from municipal solid waste, yada, yada, yada. So it's just those 3. There's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that are in here that we did not address in the proposed version. They encourage senior citizen housing, and we've got sufficient, we have more than most towns. And then flexible alternatives, including clustering. I'm not sure I'm in favor of putting that in our version. And then there's military facilities, which doesn't apply to
No,
us anyway.
It doesn't apply at all.
So it would just be those 3 things. One is with design, and the second is renewable energy, and the third is recycling. And that's in the latest version of the 40:55D-2 in 2025. And they are actually in that document, they're letters K and O.
I'm sorry, Pam, would you mind
Yeah.
rereading or the design purpose?
Yeah.
What page is that on?
It's from the MLUL.
It's in the
It's
MLUL.
purpose K, to encourage planned unit developments which incorporate the best features of design and relate the type, design, and layout of residential, commercial, industrial, and recreational development to the particular use. We can put that in there. You know, we already cite to the municipal land use law, and what the definition says, which provides municipalities with the power to zone and includes among the purposes. So that, you know, there are more purposes than what's on this page, but we felt that this pretty much encapsulates what's happening in Long Hill Township and what's happening in the master plan, but we can certainly add, you know, more purposes from the MLUL. Doesn't hurt. You know, and if someone were to come in and want to promote one of these purposes, to promote the general welfare, they can, because it's in the MLUL anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next one is, that's real short, just to promote utilization of renewable energy resources.
We certainly can.
And
Yep.
we've
That's a good
talked
one.
about with our turnover of police vehicles, thinking more in terms of EV.
We certainly can.
And then
That's a good idea.
the last one is the recycling one. That's to promote the maximum
Practicability.
Practicability, yeah.
recovery and recycling of recyclable materials
Mhm.
from municipal solid waste through the use of planning practices designed to incorporate the state recycling plan goals and to complement municipal recycling programs. Even if we were to leave out, because I'm not familiar with the state recycling plan goals, even if we left that out, to complement our own municipal recycling programs.
Well, if we're
Yeah.
gonna borrow from the
We better do it
MLUL,
verbatim.
we should borrow it verbatim.
Right.
Right.
And as I said, if someone comes in here, to develop military facilities,
Yeah.
which the federal government can do.
We'll update our,
You
Why I
know,
left that one off my list.
Well,
They
it's
can-
not.
they
But
can
it's
because
not.
it's in the
Yeah.
MLUL.
Yeah.
It is a purpose of the MLUL, which they're allowed to do as it is, whether we put it in here or not. Whether we put it in here or not, but I didn't want to simply leave all of these sections, kind of, just vacant, with nothing in them. And most municipalities do repeat what the MLUL says, either in whole or in part, picking and choosing. But with the idea and, and the knowledge that, yes, you can use any of these to promote the general welfare. You can rely on any of these if you're an applicant, before a board.
The state trumps us.
It sure does.
Yeah.
Well, the state gave us the power to zone through this law right here.
Yeah.
So,
So those are the
good,
only
thanks.
three.
Yeah, did anybody have any comments in regards to adding those? I don't see any downside.
No.
Have anybody else? Great, thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
There's a typo in the now therefore be ordained state of New Jersey.
State. How did we miss that? I missed it.
yep.
Oh, yeah. That's it.
All right. Other comments, questions?
Are we gonna refer to the 40:55D-1 or 2? That's a whole reversion.
No, D1 is that's the way that the statute is cited. That's the beginning of the municipal land use law.
Not the D2 of 2025. It doesn't matter. I think that probably.
Sorry.
not-
Is this on-
D1 et sequitur is.
Yeah, that's fine, that's the short
That's-
term. The
yeah.
D2 is just the purposes of
Yes.
zoning, so you don't want to limit it to
Right.
just that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The rest of the document, gotcha.
Page 7, the definition of commercial vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Where's it pulling that from? And the reason I bring that up is, this caused a little bit of consternation when we were looking at parking ordinance for commercial vehicles. I wouldn't
That-
agree with this.
That is an existing definition,
From
the
The
ordinance.
ordinance.
the MLUL or
Nope.
in
No.
here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is,
So-
this is the Township of Long Hill. That's another thing that we were trying to do initially, but then decided that because we can't touch everything in the ordinance at once, it's just gonna be too much, we decided to leave it alone. So this is what it is right now, but it can change with a future, ordinance change.
Yeah. Can we strike it and get to it when we do a,
No,
No.
so we
That's the
discussed that.
That's the Jenga block we're trying to
Yeah.
keep in the
Okay.
Jenga.
Right, you
Yeah.
gotta keep in what you currently use.
Okay.
That makes most sense. And then
Yeah.
if we change the parking ordinance and change the definition there of a commercial vehicle, it will
Yeah.
get changed here to be consistent. The
Yeah.
two of them will have to be changed.
so note to the board here, put an asterisk next to that in the future.
Right, we talked
Because
about that.
this is a huge problem.
Right,
And-
we talked.
Yeah, we have a bunch of.
That's not the only one in
Topics.
this list of definitions that's not changed.
Right.
Yeah.
So anything, I should have probably have prefaced all of this by saying that anything that is neither underlined nor, has a strikeout through it, that is what is currently, actually, everything is currently in the zoning ordinance. So we're striking things that don't belong anymore, and we're underlining things that are new.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, that's clear, but, yeah, Scott, just so you know, I mean, that is one of the things the, work is tracking, is all of the problem asterisk areas, so.
Right.
But it is good to mention those as we kind of go through this now, so we can record that and know to come back.
Yeah, and I'll say, it's like we did some work on the committee on this one.
Yep.
And probably have some better
Yes,
Right.
input for this.
that would be
Right.
great.
Right, but there were a number of definitions that we were striking, that at our last org meeting, we said, no, we need to leave them because they've not been changed yet,
Yeah.
so.
Just to bring to your attention that building height, which is a new definition on page 5, is defined differently than height of building on page 13. I have no trouble if you feel that they need to be different, just, on page 5, it's building height, which is a new definition, which is very specific. And then on page 13, height of building, which is much more general and is the existing definition.
There's actually a pretty important difference between the two that we
Yes.
should talk
Is there?
about.
Yes.
Because they're-
Yeah,
well,
yes,
it-
Yeah,
there is.
please.
Yes.
Right, because
No,
we talked about
One
that
of
too.
these was supposed to be stricken, and I don't think I ever got the answer about which one we should strike.
Because we should probably check with Joe,
That's right, this was a Joe question.
because one is taking it from the lowest ground
Correct.
elevation, and one is taking it from the highest. And so we should check, because
Yes,
that's something that needs to be, we do know it needs to be addressed.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. This is a vestige of us trying to fix a lot of different things.
Oh, yeah.
This is what this is. And there are a couple of things in here, actually, that are Joe Bush questions, engineer questions. So we are going to pass this by Joe before we send it to the township committee anyway with our notes.
But as far as handling that this evening, with regards to any amendments we want to make to this now, we're kind of left with which one is it, right? Until Joe comments.
I think probably the existing one,
Yeah,
which is the height of building.
height of building,
It should stay,
Yeah.
and the other one
yeah,
For now.
for now.
All right, so we
So
will.
let's go on that premise.
Let's remove it and just, not try to fix things right now.
Right, yeah, because I would really like to get this to the township committee at
Okay.
this point.
And we don't want to include a definition for drainage. We use that a lot. but Don't want to steal it from the, NJSA 40:55G.
Well, we're trying not to repeat things that are already in the municipal land use law, only because they're already in the municipal land use law, and we're following it anyway.
Right.
And we're trying to not have these definitions be overwhelmingly long,
It's a
like
big
this
one.
section, because it is as it is. And unless it differs in some way, then we're not gonna redefine it here.
No, I don't see where it conflicts with anything. It's just, it's always an issue in this town. I know
Well,
some of the-
Right,
yeah,
but
and so you'll notice we took out wetlands and
Yeah.
Yeah, all of it.
stormwater and
Yeah.
all this
All that
other
stuff
stuff,
out.
because all of that's in flux right now, and our
Yep.
concern with the updating of a lot of the state regulations is then our ordinance is gonna be outdated with the
Outdated.
definitions. So it's
Right.
just better to strike it and let the MLUL
Yep.
change or
Right.
use some state definition.
It's all like-
Exactly.
Where?
We're not trying to
Not
diminish that any of these things
It's
are
not
not
in here.
important because we
Right.
struck them.
It's not in here
Well,
at all.
now it makes sense.
Right.
Why they're not here, because when I
Yeah.
saw them taken out, I wondered why.
Right, I found
Well-
out just recently, some of the updated
Well,
stormwater regs are gonna be postponed yet again.
If
So that could be
drainage
2
was
years.
not stricken with a strike through, then it's not in the ordinance. It
Yeah.
originally is not in the
No,
ordinance.
it would have been a new one.
It would have been a new definition, but it's already, in the MLUL. Drainage is extensively defined in the MLUL. And the problem with defining things that change every couple of years is we have to remember to change the definitions, and if you don't remember, then you have applicants coming in and saying, but your ordinance says, and it's
Right.
wrong.
Right.
And I think Chairman Richardson
Yes.
found a few definitions that
Yep.
are
Right.
no longer.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, the flood maps have all changed, and we're referencing a 2001 map and stuff like that. It's
Well,
just,
the
it's much,
100-year flood,
right,
they don't use that
No.
definition anymore. So
Right.
the-
it's
a lot
just
of
too
those
hard to
things
keep up
appear
with.
in our ordinance and shouldn't because they don't exist
Right.
in the state rules anymore, right? Or they have different ways of describing them. So we're better off using their definitions than creating our own that
Right.
create our own problems.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, going to the opposite end of the spectrum, why have any of these definitions in our ordinance and just let MLUL dictate?
Because
That'd
some of them aren't,
No.
and some of them we're required to have.
Okay. So that's important to differentiate, rather than just tossing it all up to the MLUL and let
Right.
people figure it out.
Right,
Look it up.
right, right, right.
Now, on the lighter side, I learned about roofs, because I didn't understand why these
Oh, look
were.
here.
I had
There
to
you go.
look it up.
You're our roof expert now.
Now I am.
Awesome.
Okay. Any other comments, questions in regards to the cleanup ordinance?
Just to notice a typo at the top of page 18, it says non-conforming use, I think it should be non-conforming.
Mm-hmm. Top of page 18.
I wonder if it's wrong in the ordinance.
Oh,
Listen, I copied and pasted right out of the ordinance,
I'm
so
sure.
Yeah.
well, we're gonna make it right then. I'm gonna
Yeah.
underline it.
That's a good call, a good catch. Non-conforming, no, it's in here.
Non-conforming.
Non-conforming.
I found a couple of, while going through the ordinance, a couple of typos.
Anything else?
I saw, Liz, you added a definition for supermarket and took out the grocery stores? Or did, Yolanda did
Well,
that?
here's the
You were supposed
problem.
to get it, but that
Here's the problem with supermarket and grocery store. We defined a grocery store and then called it a supermarket throughout the entire thing.
That's what it was.
So that's kind of a problem. And we also, because we had this discussion the last time, we took out I took out, and that's another, I'm glad you're asking this question, because as I'm going through this, I do have questions for the board. I took out that last sentence regarding what the size is,
Right.
because Lynn's, Liz's point, and it's a good point, is that, your local Wawa is now gonna qualify as a supermarket, and it's not pursuant to what the size was in this definition. So that's an issue,
Yeah.
because that's not what a supermarket is, that's not what we mean when we
Right.
say supermarket.
That probably goes hand in hand with restaurant. You read, because restaurant's only one sentence in here, right? So
Yeah,
it's a very vague sort of thing, so it's probably along with the.
These are additions, because I
Yeah,
agree.
next time we go through it,
Yes.
to put it on the list of just kind of,
Because, yes, there's more formal, there's,
right,
you know,
because if you read
take out.
through it and you make food in your garage and you pass it out, technically you're a restaurant based on that. So,
exactly.
Those are future changes.
yes.
Yeah, so this
This
is,
is not this time, it
Yeah.
was the same thing as Scott of
Yes,
just
yeah.
noted
Yeah,
for
yeah.
future.
Right.
Yeah.
updates.
this is definitely a current one. Another one that we have here that, isn't in the ordinance at all, but it's the banquet hall. I know we have one in town and, but it's not used in the ordinance anywhere, but we didn't take it out because it's been a definition, it is a definition, we're gonna leave it for now.
What about small hotel, inn, and/or bed and breakfast? Why would we leave that in?
That,
Okay.
that was also, we had a
We talked about
discussion
that
about
one
this
too.
as well.
Yeah, we had discussion on
Yeah.
every one of these.
I mean, is that in the
No, this is
This
a
is-
Long Hill specific definition. I'm not really sure why you have it, but we kind of batted around removing it, but then we decided, it must have been put in here for a reason at
Well,
some
we couldn't
point.
figure out that reason right.
We couldn't figure out the reason, so we decided to keep it until we can figure it out.
Airbnbs?
That's just what I was thinking.
It wasn't in there for a specific purpose that we could figure out right then.
I would, my opinion would be to take it out.
Okay.
It's just me.
Where is it, hotel?
It's,
Small
21.
hotel.
One.
Page 21, small hotel
Oh,
inn
small,
and or
small
bed
hotel.
and
Small like
breakfast.
us. So we debated it both ways.
Yeah.
We debated taking it out because we weren't sure where it went, but eventually decided we would leave it in until we could do the full research to see if there was something that was written in an ordinance that we needed to change, and then we could take it out.
Are
If
there
we
any
weren't gonna-
venues in town that are
It's
similar? I
it's a
don't know that
permitted,
there are.
it's a permitted use in the BD
It is
what
zone.
it
It is,
I believe it was added within the last 5 years.
yes. Okay.
But, I don't, I think long-term, we may wanna take it out, but I think it's just gonna require a little bit more nuancing of the,
Right.
maybe there's aspects of that use we would want to allow. Small hotel is a weird,
That's a strange way to characterize
Well,
something.
yeah,
That's
bed and
fine,
breakfast
fine.
kind of fits into this Airbnb kind of thing, which I know is, you know, a
Breakfast
hot
has to be
button.
served
Becoming a
according to the
issue.
definition. Airbnb,
Right.
you just rent the place
Yeah.
and make your own breakfast.
Yes.
So they wouldn't even qualify.
Right.
And they're not even called Airbnb or even bed and breakfast, it's short-term
short-term rentals,
rentals.
yeah.
My last comment, I promise,
Yeah,
on
yeah.
page 9, just sign of the times, when I read detention facility. I don't know if we use this in our other documents, but maybe detention installation would be a better way, because when we use detention facility, I don't think of, you know, basins and temporary storage of stormwater runoff.
It is a sign of the times.
No, it really is.
So I thought of detention installation, but I don't know if you can just change that.
Maybe it's stormwater detention facility.
That's usually what it's called,
Yeah.
the stormwater detention facility, and let me take a quick look, because we
Sounds
tried
like a
not
prison.
to change
Exactly.
anything that's used in the ordinance, not
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
Even though we may not like, yes, I think the term could be updated, but it's not incorrect.
No.
It's not, because,
So
and
I
it's,
would rather
it's
go
used.
with a little of the awkwardness and then try to, you know, if you need to down the road, address it.
and it is used, because I just
Yeah,
Googled our ordinance, and it's used
extensively.
extensively.
Not with the word stormwater in front of it, unfortunately.
Sometimes stormwater,
what-
sometimes not, but yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, bank facilities. They also have an infiltration.
We just want to make sure
facility.
it's differentiated from a prison.
Yes.
Yes,
Right.
yes,
Well, the
Right.
definition
yes.
is clearly
Because you could look at that and say,
differentiated from
right.
prison.
That's funny.
Okay,
Wonder
good
how-
catches.
how it's defined in Oxford.
I saw that.
Forgetting that.
I don't know if it makes sense too, Scott, in the first reading of this, when you flag some of these different, is to bring it up to the township committee and say, hey, you know, because this is a draft to the township committee. If you guys decide to strike some of these definitions or know the source of the issue, like we're kind of talking about, and feel confident in striking it, let's strike it.
Mhm.
You know, I don't think we're gonna have a big problem with that.
Yeah, I'll relay that to Guy.
Right.
Okay. Good, guys. Any other comments?
This was a lot of work, I know, for you guys, and truly appreciate it.
Yeah, especially when I saw the first document at 80 pages, I was like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
Talk about mind numbing, right?
It just became
So we
a
could
little bit overwhelming to
Put it
get,
on,
to
put
get
it,
to all the moving parts.
it's great bedside reading.
Yeah.
I can't wait until we get to, LU 123.3 with prohibited uses, so we can get rid of the mink farm.
Oh,
The
the
mink
mink
farms,
farms.
Yeah,
That was on the list. That
Yes,
was
that was
in
on
that
the-
big cleanup ordinance,
Right.
the getting rid of the prohibited uses, because
Yeah,
all you
that's what
need
I
to say
figured.
is any use not permitted is prohibited.
So
And that's
I might
it.
go bye-bye.
Yeah, the whole thing.
well, hearing no more comments or last chance of any comments that we have on it, then I'll ask if there's a motion to accept this with some of the different amendments that we discussed. And maybe, Yolanta, you could just summarize that real quickly for the
Sure.
record, what
Sure.
edits we'd like to make,
So
and then we can vote.
principally, we are going to add
Or
some of the
motion.
purposes of the MLUL. We have removed the new potential building height definition. We've made a number of notes, some typographical changes. And other than that, I can't think of anything else.
I just have those two.
Yeah.
Remove the new building height definition, keeping the existing one.
Yes,
For
oh,
now.
one more thing. I had stricken church. And I said that right after I said, I'm not striking anything that has to do with houses of worship, and here I did it. I am going to unstrike it, because Liz and I just had this conversation this morning, and that's why I'm
because
going
the
to
ordinance is
unstrike it here, because it's gonna be stricken
Stricken
there, in the houses of worship ordinance. So, because we have to play this, somehow that it makes sense.
Mhm.
Because if this gets adopted and that one doesn't,
Mhm.
we still need this. So,
Gotcha.
so I'm gonna unstrike this, so that's
Okay.
another thing.
Okay, good.
Segue into our next topic.
Yes.
Yes.
So the next
All right.
time we go through it, we'll restrike. it
No,
from
no,
here,
it's gonna be stricken there,
Right?
but if
In the
that
next-
never gets adopted, this can't be stricken, if this gets adopted.
Got it.
So we're trying to it's still a couple of moving parts.
But we can always come back and strike it later.
That's why I
Well,
was striking.
well,
If we do.
It will-
vote-
it will
once
be
it gets
essential.
stricken there, then it's
It's-
stricken in the code.
Gotcha.
Makes
Okay.
sense.
Okay, is there a motion to accept as amended?
So, second.
Who do we get? We got Tony and second?
Yep.
Scott?
I think we can do it all in favor, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great.
Nope.
Thank you.
And
All right.
Deb, I'm gonna do another once-over, make sure everything is
Yep.
right, and then I'll send it to you.
Sounds good.
Because the issue that I've been having, I had to find it in my options. How do you do spell check on all caps?
Oh, you don't? Yeah, it's in
No,
there.
I had to uncheck it in options,
Yeah.
and now I'm doing spell check.
That's bit me before, ever.
So
Yeah.
It is,
Yeah.
look, it took me like a half an hour to find it, but.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to our ordinance amending land use ordinance for the township regarding places of assembly, places of worship, and public and private schools.
Okay.
So do you want to provide a intro for us, Liz?
I am, because it is sort of a complicated ordinance that we've spent a lot of time looking at, and I know Yolanta has looked a lot at case law, and we've both looked at other ordinances, other instances where surrounding towns have been litigated on these issues.
Yeah.
So one of the recommendations, for people who either weren't on the board or may not remember, this was a recommendation from the 2023 master plan to have a places of worship ordinance. Currently, the ordinance sort of loosely deals with places of worship. There's a definition for institutional uses, which mentions churches, but no other type of place of worship. And there's a definition for church, which Yolanta mentioned, which is intended to encompass all types of places of worship, which is not a really great planning practice for a definition, and it potentially could be seen as discriminatory if you're sort of calling everything a church in your ordinance. The other thing I noted is that where we permit public and institutional uses, I said the definition for public use is not in the ordinance. I realized today it was repealed in 2020, and this is one of those things that Yolanta is talking about. The definition was taken out, but the public use was never taken out of the permitted uses in all the zones. So it's one of those things where one half of it got done and the other half didn't
not.
get done.
Okay.
So, public and institutional uses are permitted conditional use in most of our zones. And the idea is that the problem, and this is also mentioned in the 2023 master plan, is the conditional use standards are open-ended. They are mostly left to the planning board's discretion as to what kind of impacts there might be and how the planning board would like to mitigate those impacts. I think, and as Yolanta is the expert on law, it probably wouldn't pass the arbitrary and capricious standard if any approval or denial by this board or the zoning board was ever challenged.
And the zoning board would have, when would Deb ever send anything to the zoning board when there are no standards? How could she tell that the standards weren't being met? That's the
Right.
problem. So we're trying to create a conditional use, a use that's permitted but for these conditions. And if there are no conditions, it's just a permitted use. I litigated that issue, actually, with another town who had conditional uses. They claimed that this was a conditional use, there were no conditions. What the court found, and we went all the way to the appellate division, and the appellate division said, if it's a conditional use, or you think it's a conditional use, but there are no conditions, it's a permitted use. So this is a problem, if you're trying to condition it upon something, then you have to have something. That's what we're trying to do here,
Yeah.
something.
So, why places of worship? Why is this a concern? And primarily, it's because of the Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act of 2000, which is a federal act, colloquially known by its acronym, RLUIPA. And RLUIPA prohibits zoning that treats places of worship differently from any other place of assembly, non-religious place of assembly. So however you treat a place of worship, you have to treat a community center or a Elks Club. RLUIPA also says you cannot discriminate on the basis of a religion or a religious denomination. So you can't, in other words, say, well, for, a church, the parking standard is this, but for a mosque, it's that. You have to treat every place of worship equally. And the zoning cannot completely exclude any religious use or, any religious building, and none of the standards can be unreasonable, which would potentially effectuate a exclusion. Or place some standard that's so onerous and unreasonable as to essentially effectuate an exclusion. So what happens if a township violates our LUPA? You can face severe financial, legal, planning consequences. The house of worship in question will most certainly be approved as part of the litigation.
And you'll pay to build it.
And the township will probably not only have to pay the legal fees of the house of worship, but you'll probably have to pay damages. The ordinances would be voided, and you'd be forced to change the zoning law.
Yeah,
Just to start.
basically.
So it's significant, and there have been, and Yolanta knows more, there have been nearby towns that have had to gone through this. So what did we do here? We tightened up the regulations in the attempt to avoid the township coming into violation of our LUPA. We have added definitions for a place of worship that is more inclusive. It's not just limited to a church. And we've also added a definition for a place of assembly. A place of assembly is obviously a little bit of an odd term, but it really is intended to avoid this potential for discriminating how you treat a place of worship versus how you treat a community center. So we added definitions for both, which you'll see in the underlines in this in the ordinance. And we also removed the definition for church because it seemed sort of outdated. And then we added conditional use standards that are exactly the same for both types of facilities, for a place of worship and for a place of assembly. I can go into the standards in a minute if people have questions, but just so you know, I started essentially with a baseline of the C zone, which has sort of the largest minimum lot size in the township, and then made some slight tweaks, but those are kind of the basis for the standards. So the next question.
Those listed at the bottom of page 7.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then
Shouldn't
the
cover
next thing is, why are schools in this ordinance? It's basically a combination of our LUPA and the MLUL. So our LUPA applies to religious schools. So if you in any way treat a religious school any differently than you would treat another school in the municipality, you're in violation of our LUPA. So in addition, the MLUL mandates that every zoning in a town has to treat public schools and private schools exactly the same. So in our ordinance, what we've done here is we've created definitions for public and private schools, because there were no definitions for schools. And we created conditional use standards that apply to both. Additionally, we added a definition, this is really for clarity, but for instructional schools and studios. And that was essentially so that if people have, let's say, a language school that people attend after, kids go after school or on the weekend, or if there's tutoring or a tutoring facility, that sort of thing, people wouldn't question whether that was a school under this definition or not. So, under the school definition. So that instructional schools and studios makes it abundantly clear the different type of use. And we
discussed this, and it's more akin to a retail use, really. If you're going to dance class or yoga class, or you're going to a language school, whatever it is, or tutoring, or, one of those SAT preps, I mean, they can set up shop basically anywhere, even in a strip mall, whereas a school wouldn't.
So we added that use as a permitted use in the BD zone, which is our, on Valley Road downtown zone, and assigned a parking requirement that is the same as for retail use. So we also recommend removing the institutional use definition, because it was just sort of now encompassed in these other definitions. And we added a separate definition for public and institutional uses, which is, in my mind, better, because that's actually the term that is used throughout the ordinance, public and institutional uses. But we made a specific note in that definition that this does not include places of worship, assembly, or schools. So I know that was a lot, but if you have any specific questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Yeah. So my mind's going up and down the street. So the senior center, what is that? Place of assembly?
Yes.
It has a kitchen. Does that have to be mentioned? Serving food or anything? Oh, Elks Club, place of assembly?
Yes.
Yes.
Long Hill Community Center,
Yes.
place of assembly.
Mhm.
Old Town Hall.
I don't know where that is. What is
The-
that?
You mean the one up
Oh,
on
the
The
old
schoolhouse, the old
schoolhouse?
Old Town Hall up on Long
Yeah,
Hill
that
Road.
would be a
Oh,
place
That
of
would be a
assembly.
place of
That's a place of
assembly.
assembly.
Yeah.
What about this town hall?
This is a public or institutional use, so would the firehouse would be that, public works, a building or a yard, the police station
Mhm.
is a public use.
The library,
The library,
Library.
yeah.
the post office, stuff like that.
Post
office.
Yeah, that's,
That's a public or
public use.
institutional use, it's a government use, basically.
So it's not a place of assembly, is
No.
what we're
No.
saying. We're
Nope.
differentiating
No,
it
it's-
from what
it's
we're
different.
talking about here.
definition.
I mean, in my mind, the places of assembly are really the secular version of the religious
Exactly.
places. That's really what we're
That's
talking
exactly
about,
what it
secular
is.
versus a religious
Mm-hmm.
use of that property.
Yep.
So,
The for all of you. Section 2 addresses the conservation zone. Section 3 is the residences, but what I don't see is a section for multifamily zoning,
Mm-hmm,
RMF, RMF2, RMF3, and townhouses,
mm-hmm.
which I would think would be the same as the residential zone.
The only reason I didn't do that was because those zones tend to have been created for specific developments.
Yep.
And so they are not, the likely, they're not really, where a place of, well, a place of worship may want to go there, but they're more, already built out according to the specific zoning, providing for townhomes, for multifamily units, et cetera, and they're not widespread, whereas like the R zones are all over town, and the C zone is all over town. Those are kind of very specific, almost site-specific
Yes.
zones, yeah.
So we
So-
can't get zinged on that if somebody.
Well, I think if you didn't have it permitted anywhere, but I think the fact that you're permitting them in a wide swath of the town,
Yeah.
Right,
That
no one
would-
can say we're not
Yes.
open for this
right,
kind of development.
we're not, if we said, oh, you can't have a place of worship anywhere, you know, that would be a problem.
So
So you
pro-
wouldn't wanna add it just, on the LU 122.2 for these are single family, and then add on there with the same permitted conditional uses, the others, you just leave it out, and then multifamily, leave it out.
Yes, and one reason also is that the existing places of worship in town are predominantly in the R zones, and I think one is in the C zone.
Just for our recording, Pam, where are you in the document, just so we
On
can,
page 3,
okay?
at the top, section 3, the LU 122.2, those are residential zones, and those are, single-family homes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm,
And then we go to the villages, we go to
Yep.
downtown, and this is preceded by the conservation zone. But we don't have the, multifamily zone.
There are two other zones, and I should note, one that I didn't put it in. One is the O office zone, and the reason I didn't do that is because our master plan recommends getting rid of that zone.
Right, exactly.
So I didn't put it in. The other one is we have the LI2, which is light
The
industrial,
light industrial zone.
and the master plan recommends that actually, the name be changed to the LI. Maybe that has already happened, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
That may have already happened to the LI. But we also recommend in the master plan a bunch of rezonings within that zone, so it's like quite specific what is left. And I didn't include it because that's a very small area, and I kind of didn't want to encourage anything that wasn't a commercial use that might contribute to the tax base, because it's very small, whereas the BD zone is larger.
Gotcha.
Where'd the off-street parking numbers come from?
Uh-huh.
Okay, thank you for asking.
We were gonna get there. That was a
We
long
are getting
discussion as well.
before you go there, while you're
Yeah.
still on these uses, private schools,
Yes.
so where does like the Goddard School and the Uncommon Thread fit in?
So the definition, my understanding of the Goddard schools, is it pre-K,
Mm-hmm,
right?
yes, it's,
And so I think it is, and so that doesn't fall under the definition of a
Okay.
private school. I think the Uncommon Thread is we felt like was a private school.
yeah, they have,
It appears to be.
Yes.
And then if St. Vincent's, they don't have a school right now,
That is
but
correct.
if they went back to it,
mm-hmm,
would they
I think
be?
there is
Be-
a school there.
There
There's a
is.
school there, there's an immersion school.
That's the immersion
Okay.
school.
Yeah,
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 and it appears to be a full-time
Yes.
institution.
so
Right, it
that
is.
is a private school as well.
Okay.
it's a private school.
That's private.
Oh, here it is, Hudson Way Immersion School.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any limitations, like on zoning, if, let's say, some entity wanted to put in a religious school
Yes,
or a nursery school?
yes. Well,
Well, nursery is a little bit different. Let's say you mean a nursery school as part of a place of worship?
A pre-K school doesn't have to be a place of worship. It could be.
Okay, because the reason I'm asking is because oftentimes, and I think case law supports this,
Yes.
that like many churches or many synagogues have a daycare center as part of their
Mission, yep,
operations, and
yep.
it's sort of considered, I think,
It is.
customarily incidental and accessory.
Mhm.
If somebody were to come in to do a nursery school, there are certain standards by the state.
yes, yes, there are.
But if somebody were to come in, let's say a religious organization came in and said, we want to start an elementary school, they would be subject to this ordinance.
Okay, but if someone wanted to put a for-profit daycare center like in Valley Mall, that would be a business.
That, I think yes,
It's a
Okay.
business.
yes.
And they would have to get licensed by the DCA. The
Yes.
DCA
Yep.
oversees it.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
Good question.
I won't even go to doggy daycare.
Yeah, what about pet
There's a doggy
daycare?
daycare there.
There's no one in town.
Believe me,
I wasn't gonna go there either.
That's not a school.
that'll be the next ordinance. That's on our next ordinance agenda.
There.
All
So
the pets we've got.
you had specific questions about the,
That's where the
Yeah.
parking numbers came from.
okay, so currently, so the instructional schools and studios, 1 per 200 square feet of floor area. As I said, that's what our standard is currently for retail uses. And we're treating them similarly to retail uses. Now, the place of assembly and the places of worship, we went all around the barn with this. And basically, currently, we have one for a place of work, or for a church. Currently, we have 1 per every 3 persons based on seats of estimated seating capacity. And what I found in my research is that oftentimes, all over the country, the standard seems to be 1 parking space per 3 people. And how you sort of calculate what 3 people is different. So in this instance, the seats, it's 3 seats. Sometimes it's like, well, if it's 72 inches of pew,
bench.
of a pew or a
Yeah.
bench. But the problem is, and where this gets discriminatory, is not all religions have people worship sitting down.
Yeah.
And
Kneeling
so
and-
what we kind of went back and forth, how big is like a prayer mat? You know, we were kind of going through. And what it came down to, and I've seen this now in a few other places, is to say the maximum occupancy of the worship area. So that's sort of, you know, during a service, that's probably going to be the space of maximum
Sure.
intensity and the maximum occupancy.
And that's really per the fire code too, right?
And it is.
It
Right.
sets
Yes,
that
it
line.
is.
Right.
And that it would be 1 for every 3 persons based on that. What we explicitly excluded, though, is that it doesn't include, like, if you're gonna do it, it's just maximum occupancy of that space.
Right.
Not if there's ancillary classrooms or kitchen or that's, you know, office space. It's primarily that sanctuary space.
And that's standard from the research that you did.
It seems to be how you do 1 per 3. And like I said, you know, if the 72 inches, I think, gets divided by how wide
Sure.
people, how much space they need.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so it does come down to 1 per 3 quite often.
We got into a whole thing of worship attendance and when
Yes.
that happens,
Yes.
and
And-
some
yeah, and
religions,
total
it's the
square
high holy
footage.
days, and then the rest of the
Right.
year, it's
I
a
mean-
third of that.
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's just, that's kind of the one thing
Right.
that can trip you up, it feels
Yes.
like.
It absolutely is something that
and then you
people
have
seem to have
overflow.
been litigated on more than not.
Right,
And
especially with some of the setback requirements that are inside here, inside the ordinance, with if you have too much parking,
Right.
you can run into something. So I was just wondering if there was, but it sounds like you researched it, so
yeah, I mean, one thing I know that we found a mosque that's currently under a board review in another town. And when I backed out, that town actually regulated on total square footage. And when I backed out what the mosque said it needed, they were basing it on the sanctuary,
Yeah.
the mosque,
Exactly.
you know, and so,
The way that places of worship are supposed to function and the way that they do realistically function is if, when people are utilizing the sanctuary, those same people are dropping the kids off to the Sunday school or, you know, the religious ed classes while the parents are in the sanctuary. Any other time when they're bringing kids there or they're congregating for another reason, it's a much smaller number of people. So this is calculated based on what's the max occupancy of this structure, and we're going to park that. And what the board can consider and what a house of worship may want to consider is banking parking as well. We can bank parking so that if the need arises, they can pave the rest of that parking. But until that time, they can bank it and leave it alone, leave it green, you know, while, if they don't need it. And they're more than happy to do that, only because, you know, nobody wants to spend the extra money to pave the whole thing. So, you know,
I
there's.
know in a lot of towns, they, a lot of the places of worship, organize and orchestrate adjacent properties too.
Yeah.
Because it's Sunday morning. They're
Yes.
not open, they allow a parking lot to be used, which is a really good idea. So
Yeah,
because that
shared-
parking lot's not
shared-
used, right?
Shared parking.
And you only need it for these abbreviated periods of time,
Right.
so,
Right.
yeah. So, yeah.
no, you said something about setbacks. Are you concerned? Did you see
No,
anything?
no, I'm just saying that
Yeah.
with
Just
the size of the setbacks that are in there, coupled with the definition that you could lead to very large parking areas and smaller
Oh, I s-
coverage,
I
which
see
could
what you're
lead
saying.
to an issue, people coming in and saying, we can't build to the size because of the setback requirements and everything else with the parking that you have. So just making sure that we're not making, you know, saying that you need so much parking with the setback requirements, with all this, you don't need 3 acres, you really need more than that, right? So it's just a totality of all those forces together to make sure that they're not exclusionary to any group.
But isn't this working to set a maximum, right? I mean, it's to set,
There's,
so you can
yeah.
propose something less than this
Sure.
in your development.
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
And it is a conditionally permitted use. It's permitted.
right.
It's permitted,
Right.
it's inherently beneficial, and if you can't meet this to the letter, I mean, there is the opportunity to go before the zoning board, and it isn't as heavy a lift as
Right.
it is right now.
Right. That's the whole purpose of the renovation of this ordinance. So, good.
Other thing is for some of the other establishments, when it says 1 per 200 spaces, so like, if they rent a spot in the Valley Mall, how do you figure out how many spaces they get?
They usually, when a mall comes in, they usually have a breakdown on their site plan of all the existing tenants
Mhm.
and what their needs are and how many spaces there are.
So
And
it
then-
comes from from the landlord coming in?
Yes, which is usually, I mean, if somebody's going in as a tenant, they usually have the backing of the
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 landlord.
landlord,
Sure,
right, who would give you that information. I think they have enough parking.
no, I'm just saying, I'm not worried about them, I'm worried
Yeah.
about the inverse of it, right?
Right.
Some of the other spots that are here, of if they've got, you know, 50 spots and it's 12,000 square feet, right? So according to that, you're 10 spots low, but the schools are after hours and the other group works early during the day and they don't have anything, right? So like, I was just wondering how that sort of gets judged, so you don't get into a spot where somebody says that they wanna have a religious school after school, right? And they have 40 kids or something that come in to there. And they're, right, so if you come in and you say, well, based on that, they need 25 spots, so is there like the time shift, so it's just,
Sorry, I'm sorry to
No, no,
interrupt
no.
you, but we actually are saying that religious school that's after school
yeah,
isn't counted in the parking.
okay,
It's only the maximum. It would count if it was like a 9 to 3
The
school.
primary use. of
Yeah,
that
yeah, that,
property.
if there was a large
well, I'm saying
everyday
it's like
school.
they rent like in a spot on the industrial building,
Yeah,
right, like not inside the house of worship itself, right, but it's a group that comes in and rents something, you know, on Bay Street or one of the other side streets, right, so it's not attached to a house of worship, it's attached to, you know,
Well,
whatever, like,
But what's it being classified as? Is it a place of worship, or is it?
Well, that's kind of the ambiguity, right? Is it-
Well,
Well, we're
it
trying to,
wouldn't- it wo-
yeah.
This really wouldn't allow you to do that in place you select,
Okay,
I don't think.
well, I'm sorry, because, can you explain, are you talking about like,
He's talking about religious, so I think he's talking about a place
right,
of
so if
worship.
it's like a Hebrew school,
A
wants to do
Hebrew school.
something after school.
After school.
that would be considered probably an instructional school.
Okay,
Okay.
Yeah, because
Like
it's
a
not,
language school, like
yeah, something
like
along
that.
those lines,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Where it might be affiliated with
it might be,
a house of worship, but they don't have the space, so
it,
instead of doing it there, they rent something else out and,
that's a good, I mean, it's an
Mm.
interesting question, because it would be like an inherently beneficial instructional school.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Right.
It-
Potentially,
Yeah,
potentially,
we didn't
yeah.
really talk about
We didn't
that.
talk
But in
about
those
that, but-
situations, we may want them to come to a board.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Well,
the
that's
other
true,
thing.
too.
We don't wanna,
Exactly.
we don't wanna create something that people aren't
Well,
appropriately coming to the board.
agreed, right?
Right,
So
right.
I'm also trying to understand that side of it, where like,
Right.
did you give them, is there so much
Yes,
free
right.
that
That we'll never see them.
that will never see them, right? So like,
No.
I'm
No, you
trying to
know why?
understand both sides of the
Yep.
coin.
No,
They're
no,
not
it's a good
exempt
question.
from site plan
Right.
approval. They're
Okay.
not. So even though they may be exempt from a use variance approval, like with the zoning board, they're still gonna be here for site plan approval. Even if they
Right.
comply with all those conditions and they don't need a conditional use variance, they still need to come here and demonstrate that the site is going to be able to operate under your site planning
accommodate,
ordinance and
right.
accommodate everything.
Right.
And it's all gonna be put together correctly, you know, your ingresses, your egresses, and everything works, the site circulation. So they're still gonna be here before the planning board, even if they comply with everything.
For a new building.
For a new building, and if anyone is, expanding something
Mm-hmm.
that's not there right now, they will more than likely need amended site plan approval if they have site plan in the first place. If not, they're gonna have to be here for site plan approval if they can comply with all of these conditions. If they can't, they're gonna land before the zoning board with amended site plan approval and a use variant, well, not a use variance, but a C3, you know, a C,
So like, if it's a
D3.
3,000,
D3.
if it's a 3,000 square foot space that had one use and now a use like this comes in, they don't need to come to a board, right? It's just a tenant replacing a tenant inside a spot. That's what I mean, where like, if there's a way that you have something in there that's innocuous now, right? It's a kitchen or something like that, right? It's a cabinet maker. And the cabinet maker leaves, now all of a sudden it's a religious school that only operates after hours. Same exact square footage, they're not changing any walls, they're not changing anything inside the building, they don't need to come before anything.
It's a different use. It's
Yeah.
a completely different operation. Like, they have to get,
They
you know, what kind of site plan approval did that first business have? If this one is functioning differently, they need amended site plan approval, you know, because they're gonna have to add parking, probably. They might have a different egress, you know, and ingress.
Yeah, okay.
They might have different drop-off points, because if you're dropping kids off and picking them up, the site circulation is just gonna be different. You may have stuff going on where the landscaping's gonna have to change, you know, they're gonna want to put in, you know, parking islands or whatever, you know, to kind of make it a little bit easier to park, whereas when you have a business like that where you don't have a lot going on, you don't have that issue.
Listen, the only I can say is that we can't think of every eventuality. Whatever we adopt, somebody will come in and we'll be like, oh, we didn't think about that.
Right, but I figured that
And
would,
that's-
we thought
and that's
about a
when
lot.
they come
Yeah.
before the boards.
Yeah.
That's when you figure it out,
So
when they
on
come
that
here.
Same line, I'm thinking of the Empty Kings, and say some religious group says, we wanna open a church here.
Mm-hmm.
And that area, the Valley Mall is more than 3 acres, and
Mhm.
the setback and such. It would be a change in use, but they'd have to come before the board for that,
For site plan, yeah.
for site plan.
Well,
We couldn't really, wouldn't we be in hot water if we refused it?
So, one of the other questions, would they be able to provide the parking for what you're describing as a place of worship?
Well, the
Not-
parking was
you're-
there when it was King's.
Yeah, but that's not what it was, that's not its use.
Right.
And it would have had a parking space, more of the retail style, which is less
Things
than
is-
what you would have
Yeah.
for the number of
Well,
people.
if they say my occupancy's only gonna be 100,
Well, that,
we're gonna
okay.
open it up and have a big church of,
Yeah, I understand what you're
Councilman,
saying,
whatever.
but, so 100 would be
Well, but
33 parking spaces, by the way this is written for a place of worship, right? But for,
well, occupancy, yeah.
It's based on occupancy, which we wouldn't say and they wouldn't say. It would be I don't know, building code. or
building
the-
code
yeah.
would say.
Yeah, it's not that they're saying, oh, we're only having 12 people, and they're having many more.
Right.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
So it would probably be not appropriate due to parking.
Well, they would have to
Demonstrated.
demonstrate that they would have the parking for 33 people if they're talking about a maximum occupancy of 100. And then they would have to get that from the landlord of the Valley Mall to make sure that, yes, we have 33 designated spots for whatever day
Pam's
that
house of
place of worship wants to have it, and it's guaranteed somehow. So
Yeah.
they'd be,
It'd
they'd have to
reserved.
come and spend a lot of time explaining themselves
Yeah,
and get approval.
could happen, who knows?
I mean, if you,
Yeah, there's a
Look,
million
if-
eventualities.
if you wanted to not have it in the BD zone, that's a possibility, but I will say that there are certain benefits of having it on, on Valley Road, where you already have existing parking, it's not
Traffic.
really interrupting a single-family residential neighborhood,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense for
Yeah.
people.
And I mean, is that a huge draw for a house of worship? I'm gonna say no.
Right.
You know, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've seen a lot of houses of worship try to locate in various towns, and I can tell you that I only saw one strip mall where a house of worship attempted to locate. They were before the zoning board, and the zoning board basically, they ended up withdrawing the application when they realized what it really entailed, and they were basically talked out of it. You know, it's not that they were denied, they were talked out of it. Because it's not really conducive to that.
Yeah.
You would think that it might function like some of the things that are already permitted here, like childcare centers, or, funeral homes, or health clubs, or recreational uses, or movie theaters. I mean, those are things that, a movie theater is kind of like a church, I would say. I don't know, you go there for an hour,
That is a
and then
place-
you leave.
That's the place of assembly that I know at least one town got sued on, that they had a less stringent parking requirement for movie
Movie
theaters
theaters.
than they did for houses of worship.
Houses of worship, because it's very similar. It's a
Yeah.
very similar
And
use.
there's-
Yeah, it is.
Except,
They have to be the same.
you're going on Friday night to the movies while, you might be going to a house of worship on a Friday night, or you might be going on a Saturday, or you might be going on a Sunday.
Right.
So the days differ, but it's basically the same thing.
Good. How are we doing? Any other comments on those questions?
Two typos.
Ah,
Oh, you're gonna get, so we're done with questions. We're going to typos.
Yeah, State of New Jersey in the be it ordained on the first page.
You love that.
Satay?
Oh
Is
my
it Satay?
God, what
On
the
page
heck?
1. Right.
And page 5,
Yes.
steeples, spires, and belfries.
Belfries, I got that one
Yeah.
too. It's missing an R.
Yes.
It's not Belfies, it's Belfries.
Belfies?
Belfies.
Oh, boy, okay.
Okay, and there's one in A on that same section. There's a word missing. Where the heck is it? It should,
Yeah, shall
under
meet the
A, it says
standards.
shall meet the
Standards.
requirements, is
Yeah.
what you wrote in the other section.
Oh, I did? Okay, thank you.
So I would just keep it consistent, right?
Yep,
Requirements.
yep.
And then the only other question that I had was on item M, where it says vehicular access shall be provided from roads other than local streets in accordance with the roadway classifications in the circulation element of the master plan. What's other than a local street mean?
Most of your streets are local streets.
Right.
And so if you look at the master plan, there's a map,
Right.
and it shows you which ones are not.
And in town, that's only Valley Road,
Take a look at the master plan.
Yeah.
Just look at-
Northfield,
Maine?
County
Division,
roads.
It's
yeah,
not-
county roads.
County
Really, you
roads.
get to county roads.
I'm not sure that's it. So just double check.
Yeah.
Yeah, take a look,
Well,
because,
yeah, that's what I thought it was in the circulation element,
Oh,
because I originally
okay.
wrote it.
oh, you
Right.
did?
I did, I'm sorry.
I think I did the math.
Okay.
Yeah.
You changed the map from the map that I did,
Oh.
that's all right. So, I just need to understand what the local road is based upon that. I didn't look at the circulation
The
part of the
idea
element.
was to not have it not encourage them in single-family residential
Right, in
neighborhoods.
private
That's the whole
Yes.
point.
residential areas.
Right.
But you're including it in some residential zone.
Because some of those zones are extended to
Right.
non-local streets.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, so if we're okay with that, what seemed like an inconsistency to me, I'm okay with it.
You
But
mean
the-
it's an inconsistency because you're permitting it in those zones?
Well, not allowing it on local streets,
Yeah.
when in fact you're doing it in the zones. The zone could include a local street, is what I'm saying.
Correct, but the zone probably also includes a non-local street.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
all right, okay,
Yeah.
I'll buy it.
Should this be a definition somewhere?
Huh?
For a local
For a local
street.
street?
Yeah.
Well, I
Find
think
what a local
Ugh.
street is.
I would say, because it needs to defer back to the master plan,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
that's where it's mapped, and I would just keep it at that.
Okay. And that was the only thing I thought
Anything
of.
else? Any other comments? Is there a motion to accept as, I don't think we have too many amendments to this at all. In fact, I didn't really
There's some
record any.
typos.
Typos. Other than typos.
Other than
Yes.
typos.
Is there a motion to accept?
I make a motion to accept.
Excellent.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Great.
Got your bulk standards or no? We're not
Yes.
doing that today?
Yeah.
No, I have been, I've been working on the bulk standards chart of the
Yes.
Yeah.
and with the help of Yolanta and
You
Liz.
found one?
So we went over it today, and I had hoped to have
Oh,
a
okay.
draft, but it was too busy today.
Okay, so
Next
next
meeting,
meeting, we'll
Yep.
be able to bring that up.
Yep.
Uh,
And that should be actually ready to go, because it's,
You know, any other new business, old business that anybody has before us? I just wanted to highlight one thing that the mayor asked me to help with. As you've been seeing, there's lots of green ribbons being tied around town. There's just to raise awareness for the National Mental Health Awareness Month. And I think the town's doing a really good job through Boy Scouts and other organizations and spreading the word and getting ribbons out. This is important for raising awareness, kind of removing the stigma attached to mental health, and also helping to promote better financial resources to address mental health. So I think it's a very good cause, and I'm glad the town is embracing it. So, great. With that said, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great.